Good afternoon, Hormones and Behavior, Spring 2024. I'm excited to be teaching this class again. It's been a little while, and this is my first time developing it for an asynchronous online format, meaning that it's going to take a couple years to get this polished up to the same point that it is some of my other asynchronous online classes are. But I think we're already a good of the way there and think it will be a fantastic class. And it's frankly a lot of fun. I would say of the classes that I teach right now, even though I'm really a neuropharmacologist by training and know a lot about drugs, and that's sort of my thing. I find hormones to be more fascinating for many reasons. Uh, First and foremost, we know a lot less about it. I think that hormones or endocrinology is a relatively new field, and we still have a very poor understanding of how hormones affect behavior. Uh, One issue is that the time course of hormones is over hours, or it can be over hours, days even, maybe even months or years of a cyclical pattern. So if your hormones are changing over these long time courses versus sort of minute by minute or second to second transmission in the brain, and we're taking one blood draw, if that, and that's the basis of our information, I think it's very difficult to deduce how a particular hormone is affecting behavior. We have had some great animal research studies that have been done along the way. And they've informed quite a bit of how hormones can affect behavior, but there's also quite a bit of nuance between human behavior and animal behavior. So things like, for example, some of our assumptions about testosterone and aggression, can become a lot more nuanced when we start considering that a little differently at the level of the human. And that's something we will get into a little bit over the course of the semester. So let me go ahead and share the syllabus with you, and I will briefly go over that. So right, this is going to be a behavioral neuroscience type course. We are going to be taking a neuroendocrine approach or viewpoint of hormones and behavior. Hormones, I think, are talked about uh, in a lot of different ways these days. But, everything that we're going to talk about is going to be very grounded in more science than pure speculation. All deductions will be based on empirical data. The class is an asynchronous one, meaning that by design, we'll never be required to be online at the same time. Assignments will occur in a very cyclical, consistent weekly pattern. Every week, you will be responsible for uh, reading an assigned amount from the book, viewing my lecture, a recorded lecture of that book material, preparing a critical thinking paragraph on assigned material that I give you. Most weeks will be from a book that you've also been assigned to read. And you will also be developing an essay over the course of the term. In addition, you will also be making a policy memo to the International Olympic Committee. You'll be doing this in the last week of class. Your policy memo will be a positional statement that advises them on the fairness of athletic participation on the basis of gender identity and sex variations in Olympic sports. Obviously, a timely and relevant topic that I think should be considered in this class. So again, I'm not a neuroendocrinologist by training. However, I am incredibly interested in this topic. I honestly would rather read about neuroendocrinology at this point than I would about neuropharmacology. Uh, it's just I think where the action is right now. We know that drugs of abuse increase dopamine levels in the brain. We've known that for 25 years. I'm tired of reading about it and seeing it over and over. Now what does testosterone do on the other hand? Now that I think is a very interesting question. And I think we're still figuring it out. So let's also maybe walk down some of our expectations and beliefs about uh, what uh, some of these sex hormones in particular do. I would say still a lot more is said than is known. And that in and of itself, I think, is an important realization that, and a lot of the data that have informed where we are, even then, is somewhat limited or limiting still. Email and the virtual office here work great. Virtual office, especially because everybody can see our correspondence, our questions and answers help everybody. But, I'm also very happy to respond to personal emails. If I don't get back to you in 48 hours, assume that something went awry. And then, you have my permission to follow up, strongly. Like, you missed my email. Like, what's going on here? What I'm saying here is I should respond within 48 hours. And if I don't, you have permission to follow up with a grumpy email. I'm also happy to set up Zoom meetings on a case-by-case basis if anybody needs to meet face-to-face. There is a required textbook in this class. This is the older version. There's a newer version available that's much more expensive. I am going to give you one chapter from the newer version, particularly on gender, which isn't in this older chapter. But everything else is pretty similar. So I still assigned the cheaper one, and then I'm just going to give you the one chapter from the new one. You will also be responsible for reading this book in its entirety. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky. Robert Sapolsky is probably one of the most interesting storytellers of all time. He just happens to be a neuroscience professor. In some ways, it's a little unfair to compare oneself to Robert Sapolsky. He is just a natural storyteller. That's why I don't even think saying he's the best neuroscience lecturer is fair. He's really the best storyteller I've ever encountered in my life. If there was one person that I wanted to sit around here, tell me campfire stories, it would definitely be Robert Sapolsky. And he makes all of his lectures sound like that fun campfire story too. He also makes his books sound like that. So I think it just so happens that he's one of the leading experts on stress and endocrine interactions with the behavior and neuroscience. He is really the perfect person, I think, to give us an entertaining book to read and sort of base this class around. So that is the basis there of that choice of including such a substantial amount of the class to his book or devoting it. I do realize that this is a lot, and I do expect that it will take about 15 hours of work per week to review the assigned material, take the quiz, prepare your thought paragraph, read the book by Sapolsky, and also be working on your essay in the background. I also know that life happens, and some weeks things come up. Therefore, in this class, you are allowed one just free drop for any quiz and critical thinking paragraph. If you just need to completely space for a week, that's not going to hurt your grade. You can definitely, have a bad grade or a misgrade completely and still do very well in the class. In addition, it's very likely that you will end up with 2 dropped quizzes and 2 dropped critical thinking paragraphs if a satisfactory number of students complete their FCQs. I will drop 2 for each. For a late policy, you get one unpenalized 48-hour makeup for any one assignment. After that, I will not be accepting late work. The big exception here is that I have a very sympathetic nature toward life and health issues. So, I mean, if you have some health issues going on that need some special accommodation, or you have an accommodation letter, even if you don't have an accommodation letter, let me know and we can work something out. I've also dealt with all sorts of unprecedented circumstances, including international issues and even war. People being deployed is something that's even come up. If these things happen, let me know and we will find a solution. These are definitely unprecedented circumstances, and I'm happy to help you work through them. To do well in this class, I recommend that you stick to the schedule. For complicated subjects, I suggest teaching them out loud rather than passively studying my notes and lectures. For the essay, I recommend that you seek out the writing center. Each week you will be tested. The content in my essays will be tested using these weekly quizzes. They will be 100% based off of my lectures. The textbook I see is something that is there to help you understand my lectures. I very much try not to pick questions from the textbook that I do not cover in the recorded lecture. These will generally be multiple choice matching, fill in the blank, or short answer. In addition, you'll have to prepare these weekly critical thinking paragraphs. Most weeks, you'll have to develop these and post them in response to the Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers book. Most weeks, you will be assigned 2 chapters from that book. That isn't every week. There will be 4 aberrations to that schedule. In 1 week, we will focus on the pill, which I think you could even argue is maybe even a form of hormone therapy, if you wanted to call it that. It's certainly altering your hormones in a pretty drastic way, which can be very beneficial. But it does affect behavior, even if it is in a beneficial way. And I guess it's also fair to question if it's always beneficial. So, why do we assume that the pill doesn't influence the brain and behavior? And well, we're going to study a little bit there, showing that it actually can have pretty drastic effects on your behavior, possibly even altering your mate selection. So that's a pretty big behavioral choice right there. You know, how does testosterone promote aggression in both XX and XY humans? You might have heard testosterone is this aggression juice. You take it to make you get more testosterone. You want to smash things. It is much more complicated than that. And in fact, I think that in and of itself is wrong, just flat out wrong. I think that high testosterone individuals aren't necessarily more aggressive at all. It's possible that having a big drop in testosterone from a high baseline could be problematic, but really we need more experiments to really get into the weeds of all of this. A lot more said about testosterone than is known. We will also consider how sex and gender are considered as variables during the research process and how we can do better moving forward as a society in regard to these concepts. And finally, at the very last week of class, we will read 3 articles that are assigned and have a discussion on whether or not sex hormones influence athletic performance. And finally, you will prepare a written document of your position on that subject, and you will submit that to me for a grade. No, I 100% guarantee you, promise you, you will not be graded for this isn't a right or wrong answer. You do not need to provide your position statement to your group or to the discussion group. Secondly, uh, I will 100% not be assigning grades based on what your position is. I will be assigning a grade based on whether or not you defend your position using empirical evidence. And for these thought discussions, after you post your thought question, your thought paragraph, you need to respond to at least one of your peers within 3 days. If you fail to do so, I will reduce or deduct points from your thought paragraph. In addition to these critical thinking paragraphs that you have to prepare and the weekly quizzes, you are going to be preparing an essay for this class. You should pick any research topic related to behavioral endocrinology that you want to research further on yourself. This doesn't have to be something I bring up in class, but it can be. You can also bring in material from other classes, even if it contradicts my own. I'm fine with that. I just care about you being able to defend your research question and thesis statement using your own research. To make sure that we're on the same page with that, I want you to first submit an outline to me. I have included a template for that outline in the Canvas shell. Most importantly there, I want to see a very clear thesis statement that you can defend. I like to think of that as sort of an answer to a research question. Maybe the research question is, does testosterone increase aggression? And then you could answer that. I could argue it either way. I could argue it, yes, it does, no, it doesn't. But the answer there, the response to that would be the thesis statement that you would then defend. Um, I also want you to prepare and submit an annotated bibliography to help you organize your research before submitting the final research essay. Uh, then finally, you will also prepare and submit a policy memo. Here, you will review 3 articles that I provide you. You can also bring in additional articles in creating your policy memo. You do not need to include references in this, but if you do, I would like you to include those as a footnote. The current APA actually doesn't advise using footnotes, but the old version of the APA, there are clear directions on how to create a footnote. In addition, I'm fine with you using MLA or Chicago style to create footnotes. I really don't care what reference format you use, as long as it is consistently applied throughout your policy memo. So there are the specific directions. So your grades will be determined by 14 quizzes, probably drop down to 13 if you complete your FCQs. That will be about 1/3 of your grade. The critical thinking paragraphs are about 1/3 of your grade. And then the essay and the policy memo together are about 1/3 of your grade. Discrimination is important. If you feel that you or anybody else in the class is being discriminated against, I would like you to contact the CU Denver Office of Equity. Here's their phone number, or also the Title IX Office Coordinator. Here is their email. In this class, we are going to be discussing a variety of sensitive subjects, in particular, gender identity. First, if you need clarification about terminology, especially in regard to sexual and gender minority populations, I suggest using this NIH terminology database that you can see here is a link. But in general, I would like us to be able to have a liberal discussion about these topics, meaning that different opinions and viewpoints are welcome. I would like you to be able to lean into difficult conversations and be willing to consider diverse perspectives. And importantly, I think we need to be able to acknowledge that we come from different backgrounds and bring unique perspectives to these concepts or topics. Thus, I really don't want us to make assumptions about other students' identities based on their comments. And I especially don't want people trying to attack people outside of class or on social media, uh, for these sorts of things. If somebody says something that is offensive, you can email me and the CU Denver Office of Equity, and we will handle the situation. I'm also willing to excuse you from any discussion, and we'll find an alternative way for you to earn credit, full credit, if that situation arises. What I would not like to happen is to try to take screen capture or really try to attack people on social media or outside of the class. This is not the way to go here. Let's not have escalating fights here. Let's do engage in liberal discourse and keep an open mind and have great college level conversations on timely and relevant topics in society. That being said, I fully acknowledge that there are sensitive things that are going to come up in this class. Gender identity is only one of them. And when we are dealing with these things, I do realize that they can manifest in this as emotional distress. If you are feeling distressed by participating in any discussion or hearing one of my lectures, I need to know about it. So please let me know, and I will try to find, I will 100% find an alternative way for you to earn credit uh, uh, and still be able to excuse yourself from any space that is causing you mental uh, harm. Know that the academic integrity and the honor code do apply. Representing AI generated writing as your own is a form of plagiarism. Email me if you are confused. I'm still a little confused about some of the guidelines for AI generated writing myself. Of note, is it? I guess here I would say that I would not have a problem with you using something like Grammarly or AI software to work on your own grammar. Uh, Frankly, I think that that is a necessary way to even the playing field between those that are native uh, born for are English speakers and those who aren't. Uh, yeah, I think, yeah, really, we maybe playing around with such things is great. But using AI to generate your entire essay from scratch is a different thing altogether, and that is plagiarism and should be avoided. Well, here's the schedule of events. On a regular week, you would have to read a certain amount from the textbook and listen to my lecture, complete the quiz, review the critical thinking material, usually 2 chapters from the Sapolsky book, create a thought paragraph on that, respond to your peers within your learning community, and repeat on a weekly basis. Uh, and that'll be that. That's the semester and the cyclical pattern. Here's the outline template and a representative annotated bibliography. Both of those are posted in the modules for the essay as well at the very modules page of Canvas at the very top. Please let me know if you have any questions as we make it through the semester. I again think that this is one of the more fascinating topics to discuss right now. And I really hope that you come in with an open mind and are willing to discuss hormones together as a group as we all learn about it.